everyone's gonna be like consent, but you know, I just honestly,
Yeah.
also she sort of looked at me a little confused,
Yeah.
but then said bye, see
Yeah.
you later, and then we just never spoke of it again, you
Yeah.
know. But I realize it's funny how the body just
And it was on the
reacts.
mouth. Sorry.
No, it was sort of like
on the
here.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Good boys.
Welcome to Good Boys.
Welcome to Good Boys.
I should have opened my protein shake before. Do you see this time I have? It's a cafe latte. It's got caffeine and protein
Can I read the back?
and everything you need to feel hyped as fuck.
I just purchased, I know the last episode we talked about pre-workout, and I bought a non-stim one. Because with pre-work, so pre-work, like traditional pre-work that has like stimulants in it, it has like an itching effect. That's why when you see bros at the gym and they're like doing, I don't want to be doing that. So I bought like it's called like no stim.
Cool.
And so it has like the caffeine and like the stuff that like amps you up, but it doesn't have whatever stimulant in it that makes you like tweak out. Great. And then I mean 20, this is great, 20 grams of protein. And then I also bought creatine.
Thank you.
Because I should be are you taking creatine?
Every morning.
Can you believe how stacked I'm getting without it?
No, I'm scared. I don't think you should take it.
But I bought it in pill version. Are you putting
pill
it in?
Version? Yeah, I put it in either my yogurt in the morning. That's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Don't fuck with me. My yogurt or bollocks. My yogurt or my coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I tend to not like having to put some, because also I drink a lot of iced coffee and not a lot of hot coffee. I mean, in the winter I do.
It would be gross because you yeah, you know, it'd be all bitty.
Yeah, but I don't mind taking the capsule because I also take a B12 supplement and a vitamin D supplement. So I'll just take them all at once. I'm excited for that. Thank you.
That's why you're so healthy.
I made like a giant order of like the Core Life milkshakes.
Yeah.
And
the 42 grams.
Yeah.
42 grams. Right.
Why would I waste my time doing 26 grams?
I know.
Get out of here. It's a 42. That milkshake is like a fifth of my daily protein intake. I need that.
Yeah.
So I did that, my pre-workout and my creatine. And I'm like, who have I become? And then my fridge is full of my meal prep. And I'm just like, who am I?
But listen.
Who is this man?
Separately to the physical effects of it, don't you feel like mentally
totally
clear?
And a week sober.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I'm clapping, but not too hard into the
mic.
Thank you.
So feeling very, very clear. Yeah.
We didn't say, but welcome to Good Boys.
Welcome to Good Boys. I think you did say it at the top, but then we kind of plowed through it.
Okay.
But that's okay. We can say it twice. We can say it 3 times if we want.
Yeah, we'll just keep saying it.
But this is a special Good Boys.
Yeah, we're doing something different this week. What are we doing, Mark?
We put out on our Instagram page, by the way, if you're not following us yet, it's at Good Boys Pod on Instagram, and you should be following us because that's what a good boy
if you're not following us, weird.
Bad boy.
Yeah. Bad boy.
Bad boy. And weird. And we asked y'all for questions, and we said you can be unhinged. You can ask us personal questions.
Yeah.
You can kind of anything goes. And so you guys kind of did that. And so we have a list of questions. So instead of doing what we typically do, we're just going to read through these questions and whatever conversations come about from it.
Yeah. And we're going to be honest and open.
Yeah. What? You look like you regretted saying that immediately.
No, I was like, no question will be unanswered. And then I thought, should I say that?
Yeah. Well, no, we'll answer each question, but maybe not, we'll say. So we're just going to get right into it. Do you have anything to say before?
No.
We kind of covered some things.
We can close it with Good Boy and...
Yeah. Okay, great.
So let's just get into it.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what people say.
What was your queer pipeline? So these are also everything is for each of us.
Okay, great.
What was your queer pipeline from child to good boy?
Huh. Okay, I feel like we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll do a quick summary of it for me, but maybe it was similar for both of us actually. But I was a straight woman. I've been with one boyfriend, one solid boyfriend for years.
Oh, this is so funny. We were thinking of very different ways to answer this.
Go ahead. Really?
Yeah.
So as a straight woman, isn't that the pipeline?
In my head, no, I think you're correct and I'm wrong. I took the question as like, what was the pipeline, as in like, what got you from child? So not necessarily like the different phases, but like,
so like,
because I was gonna be like, oh, like like weirdly, the whole Catholicism thing that I talked about, because like as a
Okay.
child, that's what it taught. But no, I'm gonna answer it your way. So keep going. Sorry.
Okay, fine. So I'm a straight woman, and then probably a bisexual woman, but I didn't really speak about it like that. But ultimately, I had a boyfriend and then was sleeping with my girl mates, which wouldn't recommend. Then
I would.
it was a nightmare. Then I get to university and I had a girlfriend there. So I start like, but I'm still saying to everybody, hey, I'm bisexual. I'm not gay, is what I keep repeating, just on repeat.
Yeah.
To anyone that will listen.
Yeah.
Then
also still now.
Yeah. No, I'm still saying to everybody, yeah. I'm bisexual. I am bisexual. I know, for fuck's sake. There's so much biphobia on this pod. It's crazy. So then I moved to London. I start my first job. I'm not dating men anymore, but I'm still pretending to be bisexual. And then I start properly dating women, and then I'm a lesbian, and then I start calling myself a STEM.
Was your hair long or short at this time?
Long.
Okay. Long
braids.
And braids. Okay.
Then I start calling myself a STEM, and then I get rid of my braids and have shorter hair.
Little teeny braids or big braids?
No, not cornrows, like single braids.
What is like the bohemian style? Like what?
I don't know.
Oh, box braids.
Okay, box braids. Gotcha. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
For those who didn't hear, Tima just screamed box braids into the abyss. Okay. So then my hair's and then I'm like, oh, I'm not a STEM, I'm a stud.
Yeah.
And then I'm like rocking around London being like, I'm a stud. Then I moved to New York. I go to acting school. I start being like, dresses are weird and I don't want to.
But you were wearing dresses as a stud.
Well,
you would.
I would have.
Okay.
It was like an occasionally, you know. So then I'm in acting school and I start being like, I hate my breasts. That was the first thing for me. I was like, God, the chest dysphoria is like a lot. And it starts like overtaking me all the time.
Yeah.
And then I start being like, what does that mean? And then you start thinking about, am I trans? Am I non-binary? Then I do a little stint in non-binary land where I'm like, okay, I'm not anything. I'm not like man or woman. I'm just nothing. And I wear a binder. And then I start understanding myself sexually more, physically more. I start understanding my dysphoria. I start realizing I've had bottom dysphoria for a long time, but I hadn't realized it. I guess, you know, when you're a stud and you're having sex with people and you're just like, yeah, I wear a strap, whatever, like that's what I do. And I don't get penetrated and that's just my vibe, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't put together that actually I had a lot of bottom dysphoria.
Yeah.
So then I figure out all this stuff. I explore myself more, I go to therapy, and then I'm like, oh, I'm trans. And here we are. But I went trans guy, and then I've almost like I'm still a trans guy, but I've like pulled back my binary idea of transition, I think. And now I feel actually pretty fluid and pretty trans non-binary in myself.
Yeah. Wow.
Was that long? That was too long.
No, I mean, that's the pipeline. It is. Yeah. It's kind of your whole life, right? Yeah. Mine is very similar, so it's going to sound repetitive. I'll try to make it sound as different as possible.
Were you a stud?
No. Yes, and I was calling myself that on the internet. No. So yeah, straight girl. First of all, I should say, totally a non-binary kid. Like looking back, like I was totally non-binary as a kid up until like formal schooling, and I think that's when I got put back on pipeline.
You're so right. Thank you for the reminder of that. That's so true, and we should think about that. We should talk about that another time because, yeah, as a kid, I refused to wear dresses. I was like a tomboy. I was like doing all these things.
Tomboy was like barefoot in the woods all the time, like climbing trees. Again, not to say that you can't be a cis kid and do that, but that plus what we know now, it's like you do it, like
100%.
And so yeah, straight girl, boy obsessed all throughout school, like always needing a boyfriend, but not necessarily because I liked the guy, just because I was like, I need a boyfriend. So again, underlying whatever. And I like bi-curious in high school, but the only reason I figured that out is other people would tell me that I was like bi. Like we were partying a lot in high school and I was drinking a lot, and like girls would tell me like, oh my God, like first of all, they'd ask to make out with me to impress the boys around.
Sure.
I was for some reason the like safe friend to experiment with without me myself ever really doing anything or saying anything to make it that.
And you liked being with guys, right? No.
Sure. Like I liked doing like I liked the attention of having a boyfriend for sure, and I liked the social capital of like having a boyfriend because I was like popular, and so the guys I dated were kind of popular. I also always dated older guys.
Okay.
Like I was like a freshman dating a junior, or sophomore dating a senior, and but like yeah, like we'd be at parties and like this this girl, she would never listen to this, but this girl Alexa, who's really nice and really gorgeous, would like always be like, "You're bisexual," and I'd be like,
Okay,
"Am
Alexa."
I?" I'd be like, "Am I?" Like, I don't think so. Like, I'm not trying to make out with people. They come up to me, but I was always like the boyfriend of like the friend of like my girlfriends and stuff,
Sure,
whatever.
yeah.
So that was that. And then I was like, fine, sure, I'll use the bi. I'll say I'm bi curious. Because
Great.
I was still dating guys, but I'd make out with girls drunk. And then the summer before college, I fell in love with my first like an older friend who I worked with. We worked at her dad's restaurant, and I fell in love with her, and that was the first time I had feelings for a girl, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gay." Like,
I
"Oh,
really
like
feel
it's not
something
just
here.
making out at parties."
Yeah.
And then I had like a fling with another girl, and I was like, "Okay, I can have sex with girls. That's also cuckoo." I go to college. Yeah, I go to college, and I am immediately like sleeping with guys, trying to date guys, and I get my sophomore year, I get a boyfriend for 3 years. For my in
No
3 of
way.
the 4 years of college, I'm dating a
The
guy.
same guy?
Yeah. And we were like an it couple because like he sold drugs and I was like sorority and like
Sexy.
whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
And but then I broke up with him. Ultimately, just the relationship was not working. He was not changing. He was like whatever. And then as soon as I broke up with him, I had a month left of senior year, and I looked up my college's women's rugby team online, and I looked at their roster, and I followed all of them on Instagram until like one of them followed me back, and then we hooked up.
No
And
way.
I was like, okay,
That's your
still
pipe.
still
That's your...
queer.
Okay.
Go to grad school, get my first girlfriend ever. Cut my hair second year of grad school because I was just like seeing lesbians with pixie cuts, and I'm like, oh, women are so cute with short hair, like blah 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 blah. And then the pandemic happens. I joined TikTok. I learned what non-binary is. I'm ashamed to say I had no idea what it was. I didn't know about they them pronouns. It was very new to me. And I was like, oh, what's this about? I moved to North Carolina. I start working with a lot of queer and trans people because I was working on a campaign. And yeah, like TikTok. So it went very quickly. Went from like she, her to she, they to they, she to they, them, and now I'm at. And then it was they, he, and now it's he, they. But it was the pandemic. Yeah. Like many people, it was the pandemic, and it was TikTok. Was my pipeline.
I love your like your pronoun switches because they're very like linear.
Gradual. Yeah,
and linear.
I just kept switching.
Yeah,
like
exactly. One each.
Yeah, like soft launching it, and like he, they. I feel really good about he, they now.
You do?
Yeah.
Because I went to he, they, and now I'm back to the he.
Oh yeah.
I had a little.
Yeah.
Jump back.
And very similar to you, I identify as a trans man, but I still like trans man non-binary. Like I still like the fluidity. Sure. I still like the flexibility. So yeah, very similar to yours.
I love that. Okay. Secret crushes on girls growing up? Question mark.
Like
I guess
what were they?
Yeah. Did you have secret? Well, I guess did you have secret crushes on girls growing up? I'm sure you did. And like, do you have any interesting stories? I can think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I can.
Go for it.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I can't. I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Well, I definitely had that. I think it's hard, when you're a kid, you feel stuff, but you don't like. You almost don't understand. But looking back, I definitely did. Yeah. And I remember this one awkward moment that I had where I was on the playground at school. You can ask how old I am, and I don't know how old I was. I think I was like, I must have been like 15, I think, or 14. And I was chatting to this girl and a friend. I won't name her in case she listens to this. And by mistake, so we went to say bye to each other, and by mistake, when you say bye to someone and you're like bye, and I just like kissed her. Oh my God. On the playground. I mean, it was sort of on the cheek, like here, but I just did it complete, and it took me such by surprise. I just didn't mean to.
How young? I know you said you don't know how old.
I think like 14.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like kissing age. I think. Yes.
I think kissing age, but I hadn't kissed a bunch of people, so what's so weird? Like everyone's gonna be like consent, but I just honestly. Yeah. Also, she sort of looked at me a little confused. Yeah. But then said, bye, see you later, and then we just never spoke of it again. But I realize it's funny how the body just reacts.
It was on the mouth. Sorry.
No, it was sort of like here. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Did you walk away like?
I was so embarrassed. You know, when you're like a kid too. I was like desperately embarrassed. I was like, I'm gonna die.
It's like calling your teacher mom or something.
100%.
Yeah.
It was awful. And I just, can you imagine, there's like this much face between us, and I just like dived forward and just like, see you later, and just went boom and just kissed her.
Yeah.
Wild. I was like looking around. I was like, did anyone see? She was a bit like, whoa, okay, yeah, cool. And then went.
Interesting.
But that just popped, when I saw that, that just popped into my head.
Yeah.
So I guess I just always did, but it's those things that you just crush and crush and crush down. Yeah. You know?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I didn't have like crushes on like friend. Like the first time I really had feelings for a friend was the one right before college, and like that's pretty late. But if I, in terms of like crushes on like women in general, I think a lot of me growing up, there was such a blurred line between like my feminism and like loving women and queerness. Like I was obsessed and still am with like, especially growing up, obsessed with comedy, like obsessed with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph and Kristen. Like I was obsessed with the women of SNL basically. Like sure. I would watch them all the time, and I would post about them, and I would be, you know, like whatever, and I'd read their books, and I was obsessed with them, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in love with all of them. Like I have crushes on them. They're hot. And so, and also I respect their craft, but it was like a really weird, like I was so much more obsessed than any of my friends or like the people around me. So if I had to guess, like it would be that. But I would make out with my friends, but I never had crushes on them. Right. I'm not into any of them.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this question is about people we knew or not, but I have to just shout out that like I had a poster of Aaliyah on my wall. I would masturbate over Aaliyah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Like she in my mind was just the epitome of the most beautiful woman in the world ever. So I just feel like that was most of my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good one. I think that counts.
That counts.
Masturbating to Aaliyah really counts as a childhood crush. Okay.
Who wasn't masturbating to Aaliyah? Come on.
Yeah. Wow. Would high school or college be different if you were out? And let's just assume this is out as trans, since that's like really the topic of the pod. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think I would have had the best time of my fucking life in college.
Yeah.
I wish I was out in college.
Yeah.
I was super
like
confused.
Out and like on testosterone and stuff, or just like out? Like, do you wish you were transitioned in college, or like just like out and people knew that you were because I think those two things are different. I think I'd have a hard time if I was out in college but I wasn't doing anything about it, whereas like if I was like this a year into transition like this in college, that'd be a banger.
That's what I thought. Like I'm like in this form, but in college, I think I would have slayed.
Yeah,
you know,
totally. I would have been in a frat.
I would have been in.
Instead of president of my sorority, I would have been president of a frat.
Yeah. 100%.
Maybe I still would have had a boyfriend.
Which is cute because we're bisexual.
We're bisexual. No, it'd be so different.
It'd be so. I would love it. I would have loved it.
Yeah, high school would have been tricky for me because I went to Catholic school and they wouldn't even let you be like a bisexual girl, like femme girl. So
you wouldn't have been in that school. I don't think.
No, probably not.
You know what's funny, and I don't know why this is, but the girl that I was dating in university, I think we knew as a couple that I was trans. We never spoke of it, but the way that we had set, like she bought me my first strap, and it was very like not a lesbian wearing a strap situation. It was very like how I have sex now.
Yeah.
But then I went away from that as I got older, and then I've come back to it. But it's interesting to me, like my first girlfriend, the raw like energy of that. I think she knew I was trans. She knew I was trans.
Yeah.
She hates me with all of her heart, but when yeah, she does. I think. But then I was not the best boyfriend, but I have since apologized to her.
Oh, good
and said, and then when I came out, I said thank you so much for like supporting my transness or whatever.
But you came out after your relationship
came out after,
ended, but you still retroactive. Okay.
I looked back and I was like, damn, I think that she really knew and was very sweet about it.
That's sweet.
She's never responded to me, but it's fine.
Okay, that's the
it's okay.
You tried.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's university. Yeah, my first girlfriend ever, Victoria. She texted me like a couple months because we're still friends. She's in Philly, and we were texting a couple months ago. And so when I cut my hair in grad school, I was dating her, and she really did not want me to cut my hair. I had really long, beautiful hair, and like we were like femme for femme, and like she wasn't a dick about it. Well, maybe smally a dick about it, but she was just in that like it didn't make me feel confident. But she was like, "Don't cut your hair, don't cut your hair," and I got like a true pixie, and she would tease me about how like it wasn't suited for me. And so when we were texting a couple months ago, we were talking about something else, and she goes, "So what's it like being a guy now?" I always knew you weren't suited to be a short hair lesbian. I was like, fuck you. But I think she knew. She was like, yeah, now when I reflect back, like, yeah, like you were like the dude, like I was so like would do things and dote after her and like do the very I was the masculine in the relationship, but she was like, yeah, like looking back, it makes sense, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, which is cool because she's bi, so like, whatever.
Totally. And my university girlfriend was, which is it sort of fits together well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
The trans bi connection.
Yeah. Anywho.
Okay, what was the first day after top surgery like?
Like the day after the surgery, I was like sleeping. I was conked.
Yeah, I was high as fuck. I'm gonna lie.
I wasn't high, but I was really tired. You know what I think about when I think about like that 1 week after? I don't know how it happened because it feels like some kind of movie magic. I was so thin. I like disappeared. But maybe that was a few days after because I wasn't eating a lot. But I just remember looking back and like I'd passed my, or maybe I was in my head, I was like equating the flatness of my chest to skinniness. I just remember walking around with like the bandages and the drains in my boxers and like passing a mirror and being like, where did I go?
Yeah.
But maybe that's because my boobs were so big that like it was just jarring for me to like not see that bigness in the reflection. I don't know.
That's what I was going to suggest. It's like you have halved in size this way. You know? Yeah. I was just very high, but also I was skinny as well.
Yeah.
Like and I mean that sort of negatively. I
don't mean it positively.
I look at my videos and I look a little bit unwell, but I'm sure you are.
We were both pale.
Super pale.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, hey, it was
sure. It's a huge surgery. Surgery. Like I didn't look healthy like at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just watching a lot of TV. I watched one of my favorite TV shows that's actually coming back for a second season, Such Brave Girls. It was so fun to watch. And I watched before I watched that, I watched Night Agent season 1.
Love that.
That was my first top surgery recovery show.
Love that. Shout out.
Kylo's in season 2.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Have you challenged the quote unquote locker room talk in queer or cishet spaces? And if so, how did it go?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
And I do it quite, I think we've touched on this before, but I have a lot of cis straight male friends. And they, some of them are gorgeous and beautiful, and you've met the ones that are, but some of them are, they'll say some shit and I just think, you don't mean that. That's usually what I say to them. You don't mean that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just call that girl a slut and you don't mean that. And I usually challenge. I don't usually shout at them because that feels not helpful, but I do usually say, I don't think you mean that. Why do you think you'd say that?
Yeah.
And I think that is a good enough challenge, especially I feel comfortable and safe with them.
It makes people feel so stupid when you're like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like I don't mean to make them feel stupid, but I'm like, you should just challenge why. I think you're saying that because you feel uncomfortable or you feel rejected. Like I had a guy friend recently when we were out in a club, like obsessed over this girl all night, which was like a mutual friend-ish in the crew. Basically obsessed over all night from what I could see. She rejects him, and then he just telling me how he's like, she's so boring. I'm not even bothered. And I was like, well you are bothered about her. And I think what is better for you to do is to say, wow, that really hurts because I really wanted to get with her and she obviously doesn't find me attractive.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But
yeah,
I don't need to attack her now. Do you know?
Like, use the data. Go after a less hot girl. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, check yourself.
Totally.
Man.
So I definitely challenge it when I can. And I almost think with safety, it's sort of a responsibility of mine when I'm in male spaces. I'm like, I need to be I cannot sit there with good conscience and be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no way.
Like I just can't, it's just so uncomfortable for me. So I'll absolutely do it. Do you?
I haven't had to in like a social situation yet. Thankfully, I think a lot of my guy friends know better than that, but I'd have no problem doing it. An example I can think of though is like in comedy, women are treated fucking poorly. And like, this isn't locker room talk, but a couple months, maybe it was even a year ago at this point, geez. But like, there was this show, I didn't even know the producer, but I got an ad for it, which is also so annoying. Don't make an ad out of your comedy show poster, but whatever. And it was a 420 show. Yeah, it must have been last April. It was a 420 show, and there were 10 comics booked, and every single one of them was a man.
Yeah.
And I DM'd this person, and I commented on, and I was like, hey, so you didn't book a single fucking female comic, woman comic, like on this, there you have 10 slots. And it was racially diverse, which is like, that's great. And I was even hesitant to like critique him because it was racially diverse. And that's even worse. Like, I think, I don't know what's worse in the New York comedy scene, the racial diversity or the gender diversity. They're probably equally bad. But like, so I was like hesitant. I was like, okay, well, like you get points for that, but like 10 comics, not a woman, not a single one. Yeah. And his response made it even worse because he was like, well, like I book comedians that I think are funny. And I'm like, if you can't identify not only a single female comic that's funny, but I can name 10 female comics who specifically are stoners and have jokes about being a stoner and like being in like the like weed jokes, I can come up with them off the top of my head. And so I was like, the fact that you're saying you haven't found a female comic that's funny enough to book on your show is telling me you're not watching women perform comedy. You're only watching dudes do like you're not engaging with the content. And I sent him a list of like 110 New York City local women comics and like highlighted the ones who I know are like stoners and do stoner shows. And he was like, oh, like it ended up being kind of like fine. He didn't like that I like blasted him on my story, but I'm like, I don't care because I want other guys to see this. And like, that's how you react when you see a lineup without any women. It'd be one thing if it was like a 4-person show.
Sure.
10 people.
Totally.
Anyway.
I agree with you.
And then there was something else also, that like came to mind.
Say, like, I hate the rhetoric of like, I know it's in lots of other industries too, but this idea that like women aren't funny, these like big like stereotype, so it's ridiculous. You know. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought I had another example, but I guess not. This is what I wanted to say.
Oh, go.
So I haven't had it like with people that I know, but you know what I started doing, and I'm gonna get my ass kicked.
Go.
If I see, I don't know why I came up with this. It started because it happened with my sister and her fiance, who is a woman. This was when I was like non-binary that I started doing this. I was like walking, we were in Brooklyn at our old apartment, like our old neighborhood, and I was walking a few paces behind Rachel and her fiance. And so they walk by a guy sitting like on a bench, and then I watch him do, the whole neck turn thing. And when I passed him, I just clapped in his face really loud.
I love that.
And I just like clapped in his face to like startle him, and I go, knock it off. And now I'll do that where I'll like, and I'm like, someone's going to beat my ass one day, but I'm like, I'm not going to watch that. I love it too, but I'm like, I'm not going to, like, they're like yanking their whole neck around just to like check out their ass walking by. And like, yeah, it's my sister, but now I'll see it if it's just like a random girl, or I'll snap, nope, or I'll clap just to like embarrass them.
Yeah. Be careful.
But, I know.
But still,
I know. So one day it's
but I think we have a certain amount, if we're passing, I don't know if we are, but there's a certain amount of safety in it too.
Totally. I know. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
That I'm going to get beat up. But like, hey.
I don't know that you will.
Just in general, not for that specific behavior, but just in general.
I don't want to labor this one too much, but I just want to make a point that sometimes we're talking about men, but sometimes I'm in like groups of lesbians and hear the same shit.
Oh, totally.
And I need to like pull that out because, and I don't always feel comfortable as a trans guy being like, hey, women, let's not shit on women, like I don't always feel comfortable saying that. And that's a little bit more complicated for me, and I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And, is it okay for women to joke about women? Sure. I'm sometimes like, I also don't want to be like the fun police. And like with men, it's way easier for me to be like, just don't be, you're being a cunt.
Well, there's a power dynamic there with when it's men, and so I understand that.
So I find it a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
When I hear like lesbians disrespecting women.
Yeah.
What would you do in those situations?
It depends on what the disrespect is.
Sure.
Do you have an example? Listen, if a lesbian like sent like someone else's nude or like something in a group, like
Straight up.
100% like
Yeah.
jail. But if someone was if someone was like, well, that's revenge porn, that is a jailable offense, or at least
No,
a finable offense. And so, but if it was like a lesbian was like, oh yeah, I like hooked up with that girl, she's like a little slutty or something, I don't know, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I also, sorry, controversial, don't think slut is the worst thing that you could say about someone, because I have personally reclaimed slut.
Totally.
So like that kind of, but
totally.
I get that
I
it's
won't
different
hear
for
from
like
a
a
dude
cis
though.
woman.
When I
I
get,
would not.
no. But for sure,
So I don't know. That's a complicated one.
It's a safe kink word for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a kink word for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, like
it's a
to
safe
use during
to use. Like,
gotcha.
it's a, yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Oh, this is a good one. Can trans men also be lesbian?
Yes. Is my answer, and I'm not going to elaborate.
Look, you're not going to elaborate?
No, I just think yes.
Yeah, my answer is yes too.
Yeah.
I think we should elaborate.
Okay.
Only because there's just so much.
Yeah.
There's so, like, look at those videos you posted.
I know.
People just are arguing about it in the comments.
Everything is just so hypothetical. People are what's happening with this conversation, and the conversation around bathrooms, and the conversations around trans men showing up in lesbian spaces, and all of this is, at the end of the day, it's hypothetical. People are getting like freaked out about what if a trans, I went to Henrietta's on Friday. I was a trans man. I was not the only man there, and I was not the only trans man there, and it was still a lesbian bar, and it was still a space for so whatever. But for this specifically, I just think people should be able to identify how they like. Lesbianism, I think a lot of current lesbians who are not read on their history have a misinformed definition of lesbianism. They don't understand that it was first a gender like defiant thing, and that like it's rooted in gender, and it's rooted in all of these things, and they think the definition is woman loving women. And I'm like, please, I could go the rest of my life without ever hearing WLW again, because it's made up by like, it's whatever if that's like what you use, but that's not what started lesbianism, and that's not what lesbianism is at its core. And it's like the same conversation of like, can you be married to a man and identify as a lesbian? Absolutely, yes, you can, because that's how you identify. No one's doing that for shits and gigs anyway, but that's my opinion.
No, I agree. And I also feel like very strongly about it now that I'm a trans guy, because I'm like, I'm a lesbian. I mean, I'm a dyke. Do you know what I mean? I'm a dyke. Like, I don't, and I feel that being eroded away from me all the time. And maybe, some people will be like, well, you deserve that. You're a trans guy and you're transitioning, whatever. But like, my whole identity, my whole community, my whole, we just went through our whole journeys, has been
like the way we
in the
move
lesbian
through life is
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't feel like it should be a case where, and also how are we policing that? It's totally like the bathroom thing. It's like, so at what point in your transition are you not allowed in the lesbian bar? Like, at what point do we say that?
Well, I was thinking when I was at like Henrietta's, I was thinking, and I don't know why this was so like new to me. Like, I don't know why this was like a new thought, but it finally made sense to me. I was like, wait, if we start policing, like, can trans men go to like Henrietta, then who's to say physically or like appearance wise the difference between a butch and a trans man? You're gonna that's what I mean. You're stop a butch from 100%. From walking in because they might look like a man, and then you have these things with the bathrooms and like that the studs that are getting 100%. Police called on them in public bathrooms and stuff, and it goes too far into policing appearance and a presentation. And it's just if I want to say I'm a dyke, it doesn't take away that you are a dyke, just so agree. That's my thought. Okay, great. Okay, I'm glad we elaborated. Yeah, but still, it's just, I feel you. What do you think about detransitioning? And then there's like a footnote of like the wave of folks doing it. Okay. I think people have always. Oh, do you want to go ahead? No, go. I think there's always been people who transition and also people who detransition. I'm not mad at detransitioners. In fact, I think very valid. Good for you. Like, just as much as beautiful as it is for me to have figured out that I'm trans, it's also beautiful to like go through that journey yourself and ultimately decide that you're not. What I don't like is detransitioners who who act like they were forced, even if they were socially pressured. Like, just don't be transphobic. I think that's the only thing. Like, I think it's beautiful to have that realization and go through that work for yourself and have that experience Just don't use it to be transphobic is all.
I absolutely agree with that. Yes. And I also think that maybe this is a little controversial, I don't know, but the idea of transition, I think to separate out transition and detransition as these completely separate ideas of like journey is weird to me, because we grow up and we have a journey with sexuality, with you know, with gender, with ourselves, with our careers, with like how we feel about things. We change our value system, and it's all just this like beautiful journey of trying to understand ourselves, you know. And okay, there is, by the way, it's good to say that the amount of people that detransition is a low amount, because it is such a rigorous process with, you know, so many appointments and with therapists and doctors and all these things, so the amount is low. But having said that, I just think we need to let people, it's like people that are like, oh, I'm gay, I'm bisexual, no, actually I'm straight, no, I'm not sure, and I'm figuring it out. It's like, as humans, we just are going to keep evolving and doing that, and we should leave space for it. So I don't feel mad about it at all. I agree with you when I see like reels online of people that have detransitioned, like just going on and on and on about it in a way that is like, I should never have transitioned.
They let me mutilate my body, and like the doctor should be in jail, and I'm
100%.
like, okay.
100%. And I want to say that there are a lot of people that do detransition that do so because of social pressures that way, right? It's just so difficult for them to be walking around.
Not just that, but like you lose your health insurance, you can't afford your tea for a while. Technically, they will call them. I had a friend that happened was like, I think that I have to detransition because I'm not going to be able to afford, and like that's also just a term. And also, so two things that you reminded me of when you were talking. First of all, the way that like people who view detransitioning as like a bad thing, they're kind of making it seem like transition, the term and the act, has a final point.
100%.
Whereas one that gets really tricky because it's so different for so many people. Transition isn't point A to point B. Transition is just like all times at all time, like all places, all times happening. The second thing is, I've completely forgot what I was gonna say. Something about
let me think. Your friend that had to detransition because of
that. But what else were you talking about? Sorry to do this.
Oh, the social the social pressure of the transition.
Oh, yeah. So not to minimalize it, because this metaphor I'm going to use, but like, how do you know you like a shirt until you try it on?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, not to minimize what it is to like have surgeries and go through hormone replacement therapy, but like, yeah, like who's to say I'm not gonna one day and be like, oh, actually, you know, I didn't like it, but like you got to try it on to know that it's for you. And sometimes people will try it on and be like, you know what, I actually don't like the way that it fits.
Right. But that's why things like binders and stuff are really helpful, right? But that's actually how this is maybe off topic, that's how I really, really understood that I wanted top surgery, because I'd worn a really compressive binder for 2 years straight. Every single fucking day. So then I was like, by this point, I'm sure. You know, and we have those tools to like help us get to those places. But it's a good topic.
Also, like, when you take like economics and like financial statuses and social class and all of that, and you put it to get like,
and like lack of family support. You know, people detransition because of that. Okay. Is the goal of your transness to pass?
No.
Mine's also no.
It could be like a small goal on a very long list of goals. Not to like, but we've said this before. I want to pass as a trans man.
Sure.
I don't care to pass as a cis man. I would like for people to know that I'm a trans man, though.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Man asterisk.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to be clocked as a man with acknowledgement that I'm trans.
That you're not cis.
Yeah.
It's certainly not my goal to pass. I don't even think I need to be perceived as a man. But because I feel quite fluid, I think I just don't want to be womaned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same.
So I don't need someone to be like, look at that hot dude over there. I just don't want to be womaned. I love that you threw
hot in it.
Listen. You know.
Yeah.
Because that would be like a nice thing to hear.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I just don't want to be a woman. But I also feel very triggered by if someone I say triggered. I don't even fucking mean that. I'm trying to remove the word trigger from my vocabulary fully, by the way, because I think it's just so overused in exactly the wrong ways at all times. But I don't want to be clocked as a cis guy. I don't want people to be like, that's a cis guy.
Yeah.
That would upset me, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Do you sympathize with cis men more, or do you find them relatable? Yes and yes. I've talked about this.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I do sympathize with them more. Not 100%, but more for sure.
I think it's less sympathize and more empathize. Totally. Not to be like grammatical about it.
No, it's important.
But like it's specific to being able to. The second part of the question is like it has to do with like relatability.
Right.
It's not like I feel bad for them, but I feel I feel them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Not on everything, but on some things, like we talked about, like the eating disorders, the societal pressure to be like strong and ripped and to do physical labor and like do all of those things. Like, yeah, for sure.
Being like man of the house, responsibilities. Even I empathize with them on, maybe not older men because you go through that, but like teenage boys that have like an injection of testosterone. I empathize with
absolutely.
Like, and I have like my full frontal cortex.
Don't ask me. Lobe. I think it's lobe.
Lobe?
Yeah.
Whatever. The front of my brain, I hope, is completely grown.
I think that yeah.
Whereas a teenage boy, I'm old. A teenage boy hasn't got that.
And an adult boy, I don't think it happens for men until they're like 22 or something.
Sure. So then they have no, exactly. They have no impulse control and all this testosterone, everything that I feel. And to be honest, I obviously can hold myself accountable in so many ways. And I think about if I had a little, 16-year-old boy, I'm like, he needs support with that. You know what I mean? And I think we just like chastise them. That stuff has started to upset me.
Yeah.
And I've started to listen to a lot of Scott Galloway's podcast where he talks about these like young men specifically, these like teenage boys. And I feel a lot of sympathy for them in lots of ways, to be honest with you. But that's a separate point.
Okay. Oh,
is it me?
Your turn. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm gonna read it straight away, guys. I'm not gonna read it.
I want it to surprise you.
It's gonna surprise me. When did you know you were trans? Well, I feel like we've talked about this, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip that. Next one. What's something you didn't realize testosterone does that you can't really explain to everyone else? Yeah, I have something on this. I just feel fucking different.
Yeah.
I try and explain it to you every week, and obviously but I just feel different.
Yeah.
I think about sex differently. I actually think about women differently, as in like not that I think about them differently. I'm like, they're just objects for me to use. Weird. No, I don't think about them differently, but I like feel about them differently or something. Like I think, and it's probably just because the testosterone. By the way, can someone answer this for me who's a doctor that knows things? I'm sure there's a
lot of doctors listening to this podcast.
Is the fact that Motti's taking more testosterone than me? Am I on it? This is my question.
I might be able to answer this for you. What are you asking?
What I'm asking is the fact that I'm taking small amounts of testosterone basically pulling out? Is it like, am I on this like torture road of like slow increase in sex drive that is like slowly killing me? Whereas like I imagine yours like went super high overnight. You had a couple weeks of like, and then you were leveled out. I feel like I'm in this like slow crawl of torture where it's like slowly increasing all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm gonna rip out my own hair.
Yeah. Can I say something controversial to you?
Sure.
Between friends?
Yeah.
I think you should just get on a regular dose of testosterone.
I'm on a regular dose.
Oh. When did that happen?
But it's tiny.
Sorry. I'm saying go on like a 2.5, like get on my dose.
I'm not on your dose. No.
Yeah.
Of course not. I would have told you. I would have.
Yeah, I was
like,
I would have asked you. Hold on.
I would have asked you a million questions before I did it.
I have a couple different friends who are on low doses, and they're always like, "When am I gonna see a different? When am I gonna have?"
I don't mind about that. I don't mind about the difference.
Yeah.
I am wondering. I feel sexually tortured most of the time, and I'm wondering whether that is a me thing.
What's the torture? Tell me about like what are you experiencing?
I feel like we're in therapy now.
No, because I might be able to because I might be feeling it too, and you just don't know that I'm feeling it. So I want to affirm you that it's also happening for me on a medium dose.
Okay, I got it. I feel like it's not right to just be like, oh, I feel horny all the time. It's not that. It's like this like frustration. This
I
like,
get that.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This like this, which honestly doesn't even align with like who I want to be every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is almost like it used to be positive, but now is like, well, sometimes it's positive, but like positive and negative, this like mixed feeling around it that I'm feeling on testosterone. I don't really know. I told the doctor about it and they were just like, yeah, your sex drive changes or whatever. And I'm like, I know, but there's like a urgent frustration to it or something. I can't explain.
I might be experiencing the same thing, without getting into like too much detail. Like I've recently had kind of like a reflection of like sex, and I guess like if I can speak to only how like I'm relating to sex, is like I don't know if it's like frustration, but it might be frustration of like, because I'm in this new body and stuff, like I'm so eager to like try new things and like have sex in new kinds of ways and with different things and
Yeah.
all of these things. But I'm, and Britt and I have talked about this extensively, but like I'm like monogamous, and like there's a limit to like what can be experimented, because you have another person to keep in mind, and also like it's not like I'm sleeping with other people, and so you have to kind of come to like a middle ground of like what you both want to experiment with.
Sure.
But like, yeah, I was getting frustrated with like my sex life is fantastic, but there's this like yearning for like more for some reason. And I wonder if that's like the frustrated feeling of like, yeah, like I also, can I say something? I've significantly reduced the amount of porn that I started watching, because when I first was like, yeah, jacked up and like wanting to hump everything, I was watching a lot of porn. And then I had to be like, this is what's happening to the 13-year-old boys who then have a bad relationship with sex because they think every girl's going to want to have sex this way, and like you're going to have threesomes all the time and orgies and blah 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 blah. And I checked myself and I'm like, I'm doing the 13-year-old boy thing, and I'm giving myself a toxic relationship with sex because I'm watching something on screen that's never going to happen in real life. And I've reduced the amount of porn that I started watching. But I think that I feel, at least to some level, what you're feeling, if that makes you feel better.
It does. And thank you for like saying it in a different way to me. I think that is the same thing. And I feel very like conflicted as a 35-year-old person that, loves their partner dearly. And to your point, you might want to experiment in all these ways, but like, what does she want?
Exactly.
And how does she feel about her like relationship to sex? And like, we have an amazing sex life, and it's, nothing has changed, right? So I just think I think that is it's probably the struggle I feel. And I'm scared to watch porn because I'm very addictive, and I've been addicted to porn before.
Yeah.
So I have not watched it. So maybe it's that too. I also don't masturbate that much, which like probably isn't helpful.
You should try to masturbate more.
I know, but like I don't. It seems like very unexciting to me. I'm a bit over it. I'm a bit like
so excited. Well, I started masturbating in new ways, so maybe that's a way that you can experiment.
Yeah, maybe that will like release some of the. And
I changed the way that I masturbate completely.
You did?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable saying?
Yeah, well, I have this one vibrator. You know how like a standard vibrator is like a wand and it's like straight, right?
Sure.
I have this one that was actually like sent to me, or I got it at an event or something, but it has like that bulbous, like it usually does.
Sucker thing?
No. So like the Hitachi wand, it has like the wand tip, right, where it's like rounded, but then it kind of like curves a little, almost like a hard dick, right? Like where it curves up a little bit.
Okay.
So if I have like the top part of it like on my clit, and I usually what I'll do is like I'll put it like in my boxer, so like that's on my clit, and then the rest is like flush to my stomach, so it's almost like I have like a hard dick.
Sick.
And then I'll like, if I'm sorry to everybody in the room listening to this, but like if I'm like laying on my bed, and I also like, I used to like only masturbate like in bed, but now I'm like, I'll be like playing Fortnite and I'll like finish a game, I'll put the controller to the side, put that vibrator on me the way that I am, like
so
with
you're
my
having
sweatpants
a wank,
on,
basically?
so I'm kind of having a wank.
Oh my god, that's so
or I'll
fucking
like take
cool.
I'll take like a pillow and like hump it with that thing there, so it feels like I have a dick, but it's also stimulating what it needs to stimulate, my clit.
That's pretty sick. Yeah.
And then I'll do that, or I'll like be standing up and like put a pillow like on the edge of the bed and I'll like hump as if I'm like fucking someone from behind. Like I've just changed where it's like, and I can do that even without the vibrator because the bottom growth is insane and I can hump something and it'll stimulate me that way.
Great.
But it used to be like either a vibrator or my hands, and like now it's almost never that depends. But that feels really good, and like yeah, like I'll stroke that thing, like I can't feel that, but it's like, oh yeah, I've got like a penis.
Yeah.
And so that's just changed a bunch.
Yeah. Maybe I need to be like experiment a bit more with that.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, I'm like, I want to have sex with someone.
Totally. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm like that. Yeah. I'm like, so I'm fantasizing about that. So then I'm almost like, you know, and as me and Em truly have a great sex life, but I feel like sometimes I'm like, wait, in her mind, she'd be like, we just had sex. And I'm like, when are we having sex? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And I think that dynamic is annoying to me almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe everyone's feeling that.
Well, I have this problem where like I'll get horned up, we have sex, but because of the way that we have sex, where like I am prioritizing her climax.
Sure. Good boy.
So like I do that, I'm horny, I have sex, and then after sex, I'm horny about the sex that we just had.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm like, oh well, like that just turned me on even more than before.
100%. Yeah.
And like now I have to like go rub one out, or like we've also like kind of fallen into this middle ground where like she's kind of done and she's pooped because she just, you know, did a performance of a lifetime. But then I'm laying there and I'm like, I still gotta go. Like she'll kind of just like whisper in my ear or kiss me while I jack off right there.
Sure, great.
And like that's like a
fantastic,
like a nice little middle ground. But yeah, I don't know. But so all of that is to say, like I get the frustration. Also like I have a whole other frustration where I'm like, why do I want to have sex with men now? Like it's like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you thinking about that?
Yeah.
You thinking about bottoming?
About
e-topping in your fancy or bottoming?
Bottoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, you see, I don't know. I'd be scared.
Yeah.
I went to a club. This is off the. Everyone's like, "Can you stick to the questions?" I went to.
No, this is what they want.
I went to a club. I went to a club. I'm 96 years old. I went to a club.
I love that every time you make fun of yourself for being old, it's always 96.
Yeah, it's specific.
Yeah,
yeah. Because at that age, you're almost dead.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But you're doing well.
Yeah,
that's me.
Yeah.
I went to a club and it was predominantly gay men in the club. I went with gay girlfriends. We didn't know that it was going to be that way, but it was. And we get there and there's just so many beautiful gay men there. They're just and also they're just so hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they look at me and I think they just think, what an adorable little cutie.
I don't think that's what they think. Yeah. I don't think that's
whatever. I assume it's that because I feel small. Do you feel small to these guys?
No.
Because that's what I feel. Maybe I'm just too whipped.
Some of them, but not all.
Listen, everyone in this room, I felt like everyone was like over 6 foot and like ripped and like sexy, you know?
Yeah.
And all these gay guys were hitting on me. And honestly, I was just getting so nervous.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe if a therapist was here, they were like nervous or excited.
Yeah.
Because you're bisexual.
There you go.
It could be that. And so you don't feel any of that nerves. You're just like, I would just get it done.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
You don't feel nerves like that?
Well, I'm not interacting with like gay men in a sexual way, like
sure,
since we're monogamous, but like I don't know. I think it has to do with like like I'm attracted to men again, like specifically gay men now, and also like there's a little bit of a part of me that like is more open to like being submissive than I used to be.
Sure.
Even with Britt.
Sure, I have that too.
Like we have that kind of dynamic now where it was never that way.
Yeah, same.
So
I definitely have switched like that too.
Yeah. So I don't know. And I think that like the bottoming kind of comes from that.
She could peg you.
She could. She doesn't want to.
Oh,
she doesn't want to wear a strap.
Okay.
It's like as much as it's like euphoric for me, it's like dysphoric for her.
Got it.
Yeah. Which I think is the case for a lot of people who don't want to do that.
Well, it's funny because Emma's literally begging me to peg me, and I'm like, no.
Kylo, come on.
She's begging me.
Come on.
I can't handle it. What position am I in?
Any. it could be any.
I don't know about it. What do I do? It feels
kind
too
of nothing.
Yeah, but it just feels too like it would have to be set up in a certain way, I think. I don't want to feel like a woman. And obviously...
You don't have to feel like a woman.
But of course, every gay man's like, fuck off, none of us are women. I'm not saying that. It's just that the only time I've been penetrated is with a man.
I get it.
And it's really hard for me to switch from like that woman zone that I was in to I'm a trans guy now being pegged.
I get it.
Also by myself.
Even with like titties in your face? Come on. Like, whatever. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have your own comfort zone. I think you should consider letting her peg you.
Yeah, well, okay.
It might help
TBC.
some of your frustration. It might.
Yeah, maybe.
Even the fact that you're just trying something new might like
could be like
help
exciting.
You mentally.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, could do.
I'm just saying.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry. I was gonna say the side you might like.
What do you mean?
Like, it also feels the best in my opinion, but like when you're kind of like on your front, but you've got like a leg that's like slanted, so it's like you're showing whole, but you're not like sitting there with your ass in the air.
Yeah, sure. Because
you know what I mean?
On all fours is just like absolute hard no.
No, you don't have to. I think most people don't do all fours. Okay, but great. Yeah,
fair enough.
Okay. Best and worst part of tea.
I think we just discussed the worst part. I don't know.
Yeah.
Best part, my muscles are growing, and then everyone's like, "Where? Shut up." Slowly, more slowly than Motti's, but still. You? Best part, because we discussed a bit of worst.
The best part for me is just like, I don't know, like I feel like the physical changes like to my face and stuff. Like I just feel like I look like how I was supposed to look, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The best part of tea is that it's working.
Yeah.
I guess.
Love that. And
that I don't have negative side. People, my family. I was just with my family this weekend, and they were asking me stuff, and I'm just like, I don't have any complaints. I haven't gotten the tea acne that I was afraid of, but even if I did, I think I'd still be like totally chill about it. And the reason why I even bring that up is because I have trauma with having what's it called?
Acne?
Yeah, but cystic. Yeah, cystic acne.
Got it.
It's not because I think it's ugly or anything. It's just like I had years of pain. But I just like the fact that it's like doing its job is probably the best part. Just maybe a stupid answer, but
previously socialized as a woman, do you now take advantage of your male privilege, and if so, how?
Not consciously. In fact, I think I'm really trying to utilize it for good. But you asked the thing about like of male privilege. Yes, it's real, but that's me answering as someone who just lives in this world, not as someone who's a trans man. Like not consciously and not obviously, I haven't noticed like I haven't experienced male privilege up front.
Right.
Like I don't know, I didn't like I can't think of an example where I've had male privilege that's like in a very concrete way. I'm sure like day to day, like maybe there's small things, but
I think it's definitely real. I would like to talk about mask privilege instead, because I think I've had a lot of that.
Yeah.
And my more feminine presenting friends tell me I have mask privilege.
Yeah.
And I see that. And like, this is a bit of a niche example, but for example, when we were raising capital for them, and I've raised capital for other businesses before, I do like women, for example, Black women raise, I think 0.3% of all the capital in the world.
Jesus.
It's fucking fucked. And I think women of any race raise 2% of capital in the world. So they literally just cannot raise capital. It's because of all the biases and all the men that distribute the capital. Fine. I think in those, I have other biases against me for sure. I'm trans and Black, whatever.
What?
But in comparison to my female counterparts, or let's say feminine presenting counterparts raising capital, I have privilege for sure. Yeah. A guy will chat to me and feel like, we're bros, you know? We like have he relates to me in a different way. And that allows me, I think, to raise capital in those situations where if I was more feminine presenting, they will perceive me as less capable, which is fucked. But I think that that's what happens. And I certainly, I feel that, and I know that that's true.
Yeah.
But I use it for good because we're raising money for our business. So
good job. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you guys now just men with mics? That took me so long to read. I mean,
another white boy with a podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, this one's for me. Hold on.
Okay.
Do you see your experience as a Black man different than the last one's for you?
I fucking love you. That is fucking good. Okay. Do you see your experience as a black man different than Motti's as a white man? 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I do think that.
Yeah.
But I think that listen, this is okay. Yes. Also, I have to say I have a new therapist.
Oh,
this
cool.
is I'm gonna get to this question.
I just got a new one too.
Oh, you did? And she's a black woman. She's straight. And she's fantastic. And I've had like 3 sessions with her, and we're talking about a lot about race, honestly, and my like light skin privilege, and even the beauty privilege that we both have, if we're being honest about it, right? Like all of those things and how they integrate into my transition and being a human and walking around the world. And it's so funny to me, like to try to separate out these like ideals of what I'm perceived as, you know, and I'm starting to really like be aware of that. And I think I have biases that are true and biases that are untrue. And like, for example, I went to a Jewish school growing up, and it was like an all white school. And so because I was the only black person there, I felt very unattractive in that space, which then has like told me, oh, I'm not attractive, which then, you know, now as an adult, I'm just like, that's fact to me, which then, you know, will be like, that's ridiculous or whatever. But anyway, the point is, I've been discussing this a lot, this idea of like, what does it mean to be a black man now walking through the world?
Yeah.
And some of that is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
You know, like because it's scary for black men walking around. And so I'm like, how much of that do I internalize? How much of that do I sort of push against? And is it, sometimes I'm like, is that like, do I have those same worry? Like, should I have those same worries as cis black guys walking around? And so like, all of this is like super fresh. I'm not making much sense, but it's because all of it's super fresh for me, and I'm trying to like decode and understand that. As well as the fact that I don't feel super accepted into black male spaces as a trans black guy. You know what I mean? And if anything, I feel nervous in those spaces.
Yeah.
Not to stereotype, but that's just my experience of
I'm nervous about fitting in, or nervous about transphobia
in straight spaces, nervous about transphobia, and to be honest, safety.
Yeah.
And then in gay spaces, feeling like I feel more accepted in gay male black spaces.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying I do think it's different. And it feels so overly complex for me. And I'm struggling with all these intersectionalities that I am, and like, how do I navigate these spaces? And ultimately, as humans, we just want to fit in, you know? And sometimes, not to play a little tiny violin of like a little light skin violin, but sometimes I'm like, where, you know, is it that I'm accepted in every space because I'm like mixed and, you know, a little non-binary, and I'm a sort of a guy, but I'm am I allowed just in every space, and that's the privilege of it? Or which is what actually I feel, do I feel uncomfortable in a lot of these spaces? And I actually do.
I think both can be true at once.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what my therapist was saying. Yeah. You know, that like, she was like, ultimately, you know, someone might perceive you as being super privileged because you can walk into any of these spaces, but she was like validating that you basically, I feel a little bit uncomfortable in all the spaces because I'm just not sure where I fit.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, long-winded way of saying, yeah, but.
Can I ask something quite vulnerable in terms of like, it's vulnerable for me to ask because I don't know if it's bad to ask. How is with everything with like race and how you're showing up, is it different being British? Because like 100%. I know there's like a very different experience of like a black British person versus a black American person for many reasons.
Yes.
And isn't there, I'm not going to name the celebrity, but there's a black celebrity from the UK who got a lot of flack for how they spoke about American black people. And I'm just always curious about how that's different.
Definitely. I also don't want to be problematic, but it's really, really different. Like, and here it is certainly, and I feel like these big blanket statements, it is harder for black people in the US. It definitely is. So I have British privilege, definitely.
Yeah. Just add another layer of privilege.
No,
of
I
privilege
do.
and oppression at the same time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And so it's super weird. Also,
you're an immigrant, technically.
Technically, you know what I mean? I was going to say. So when I come to the US, like when I came to the US, like I think what's tough for me too is that I think black people here perceive me as privileged. And so it's sort of jarring for me and a little bit offensive. And so I've been trying to deal with that too, of like people hear my accent and like think I'm fucking the queen or something here. And I'm like, this is not how I resonate, and it's not what my culture is, and it's not any, you know what I mean? And so that shift has been really hard. There's just been so many changes, to be honest, since I was like in Liverpool in the UK as a black person all the way to now in the US. It as a as a black straight woman to a black trans guy in the US. It's like there's been so many changes that I'm trying to. It's really hard to stay just authentic to who I am with all these changes around me, and trying to like honestly fit in and but still be authentic, you know?
Yeah. A lot of assimilating happening.
Totally. And I want to do, we all do a bit of assimilating to like feel accepted, but I also want to be like, well, no, like that's me and that's my accent and that's my experiences or whatever. So yeah, it's been it's been a tough one. But I will say on the UK side, it's, I feel like it's city first, like class first and race second.
Okay.
Whereas in the US, I feel like it's race first, class second.
Okay, yeah.
So that is the difference. I am first someone from Liverpool, and second, I am a black person.
Okay, yeah.
And that is more integral to my identity. Almost, do you know what I mean? They obviously sit next to each other, but that's what it is. If in the UK, I will walk around, someone's like, "Where are you from?" Then I'm like, I'm Scouse. I'm from Liverpool. And that is the thing. That's the thing I've tattooed on my arm. Like that is the proud thing. And I love that I'm black, of course, but it's like, yeah. And then there's black people in Liverpool. So you are segregated out into that, and we're all friends and we know each other and whatever. Also, the mixed raceness and the blackness in the UK feel very combined into one. And in the US, these feel so set. I get so many comments about being light-skinned here. Whereas in the UK, I didn't get so many. Like everyone was just like, Kylo's black. You know? So that is a difference too.
Americans are kind of obsessed with.
Totally. And I understand why too. I understand, you know, I probably, you know, rightly so in so many ways, but that's been a shit. So anyway, I'm honestly having a little bit of an existential crisis around it all, because I'm trying, and that's why I got this new therapist, because I was like, I gotta talk this stuff through. It's like super fucking confusing.
A black woman with a PhD will sort you out.
She will. She's amazing.
Or an LCSW, whatever.
No, she has a PhD. She literally does. She's amazing. Anyway, sorry for ranting.
No, thanks for answering that, because it's always curious. I
appreciate that.
That's so it is interesting, the race first, like town second, or like whatever. Interesting. There's
any
one
more
last
black man
question
questions for Motti? Should every queer person live in
New York?
Thank you. New York at some point. Oh, listen, I'm so biased about this because I moved here and New York's my favorite city in the world. It feels so fucking free and expansive and I'm not saying there's not issues here, but it feels amazing. And I'm comparing that to London, that is also a big city and there's loads of queer people. I feel free here. I feel like I can dress how I want. I can feel like I can be whoever I want. And it feels, there's this feeling of limitless joy that I can find in New York. Not saying it's perfect. It's also super dirty. There's lots of trash and crime. But in general, yes. What do you think?
I'm so glad you answered that way, because I think no. That's not to say, I'm not saying like, hey, don't move here. I think that there's this pressure, especially for like Midwest queers and stuff, to like get out of their hometown and like
get to the city.
You're not going to be really queer until you get to New York City and like blah blah, and they'll put themselves in debt and they'll move here and like couch surf until they can land a job and like spend months and months putting themselves in debt just so that they can say they lived in New York City. And I don't think that that's necessary. I think you can get that in other cities, like Minneapolis is like a fantastic queer city to live in. That's not the same price point as New York. I think everyone should try to visit New York and like have a weekend here or something. But should every queer person live in New York at some point? No, I don't think so.
I feel you. A friend of mine was telling me this like snapshot of when they first came to New York, and they were like in this club, and there's like there's windows all wrapped around. It's on a super high floor. They could see like the whole of New York. There's queer people everywhere. There's like a gorgeous like girl grinding on them. There's whining. Like I was trying to help you.
Thank you.
Whining on them. There was like amazing music and like cowbells and whistles and like Afro beats. And she said, I was just dancing behind this girl and I was like, New York's amazing. And to me, that moment, I'm like, you can only get those things in New York.
But that's what I disagree with. I don't think that that's true.
I think
you could get that in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like I think that you could get that anywhere, as long as like the program is like anyone can throw a party and have a good DJ.
We should do a tour.
But I get it. A tour?
Yeah.
A Good Boys tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But yes, I think listen, New York is magical. I love it. I happen to be from here, so it's really easy. Totally. But if I wasn't born here,
it's hard.
I probably, who knows?
By the way, it's so expensive.
That's growing up in New York, I actually for so long didn't want to live here because I spent so much time here, and I was like, there's too many people, it's too busy, it's too much going on, and it took me moving out to want to come back. But like I had a wonderful time in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So cool.
But anyway, okay. Well, I don't even know if we need to add anything else because we covered so much.
Yeah, but this has been really fun. We should do it like, I don't know, once a quarter or something.
Yeah, that's fun. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for submitting your questions. If you've lasted this long, I want to give a quick shout out to Good Boy Liv, who I met at Henrietta Hudson this past weekend. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be weeks ago. But if you're still listening, Liv, I went to the lesbian bar with my lesbian sister after her 30th birthday party, and I was grabbing myself a water, and this beautiful trans masc person who had the same haircut as me was really excited to see me and said that they listened to the podcast a lot. I love that. And then we hugged and got to talk, and it made me feel famous, and it made me feel cool.